We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The U.S. economy shrank in the spring for the second consecutive quarter, meeting the criteria for a recession, as raging inflation and higher interest rates forced consumers and businesses to pull back on spending. Gross domestic product, the broadest measure of goods and services produced across the economy, shrank by 0.9% on an annualized basis in the three-month period from April through June. The Commerce Department said in the first reading of the data out this morning. Economic output already fell over the first 3 months of the year, with GDP tumbling 1.6%. The smaller decrease in the second quarter primarily reflected an upturn in exports and a smaller decrease in federal government spending. Economists expected the report to show that the economy had expanded by 0.5%, missing those expectations by almost 1.5%. Recessions are defined by 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. The Biden administration has tried to change the definition of recession, claiming that low unemployment rates mean we are not in a recession, in order to spin the poor economic news. The raw naked truth is that 3 million fewer people are working now than before the pandemic. The Federal Reserve announced on Wednesday that it would raise interest rates by 0.75 percentage point for the second straight month, as it continues to aggressively fight the highest inflation in 4 decades. The 12-member Federal Open Market Committee unanimously approved the unusually large increase and signaled in a statement issued after its 2-day meeting that it expected to make ongoing increases. The central bank's statement noted that spending and production have softened since June's 0.75 point rate hike, but that prices have continued to rise, reflecting continuing supply and demand imbalances, higher food and energy prices, and broader price pressures. Senator Joe Manchin and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced they have reached a deal on a health care and climate spending package. The agreement signaled a possible breakthrough after more than a year of negotiations that collapsed several times. Democrats could try to advance the legislation next week. The deal, a pillar of President Biden's economic agenda, calls for about $433 billion in new spending, which would only increase inflation. Most of that money would go to fight climate change. Manchin, a moderate from a coal-producing state, West Virginia, and Schumer agreed to tax law changes, including a new corporate minimum tax, which would also go to raise inflation and raise prices as businesses would face increased costs. The bill also brings more Internal Revenue Service investments. They claim this will raise $739 billion over a decade to offset the bill's high cost. Historically, tax increases have never brought in the amounts initially claimed. Senator Kyrsten Sinema said she was taken by surprise by this deal and has not confirmed to voting for it. The Democrats need all 50 senators to fall in line in order to get this through. It is important to note that the GDP contracted less in the second quarter than it did in the first quarter because of less government spending. Now, the government wants to pour gas on the fire by adding more spending to make the economic situation worse. Hulu, the Disney-owned streaming service, said it will start accepting political ads, reversing a policy that had angered Democrats after Hulu rejected 2 of its ads on abortion and guns this month. Hulu will now apply the standards Disney uses for its sports and entertainment cable networks. Hulu said the decision to bring its policy in line with Disney's other networks and the streaming service ESPN Plus came after a thorough review. Hulu will now accept candidate and issue advertisements covering a wide spectrum of policy positions, but reserves the right to request edits or other changes in alignment with industry standards, the statement said. Mosaic Communications, a Democratic advertising firm, had announced a day earlier it would stop buying candidate ads with Hulu until it changed its policy. The question remains, will Hulu accept Republican and conservative ads or just Democratic ads, pushing Disney's woke agenda? That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. We'll see you next time.